It's Chris Beyer. Wanted to welcome you all back to the second edition of Blue Shirt Bottom Line Thursday. Look at that with Mr. Chris Bowling and Brad Johnson. See, I'm trying to find Brad's style.
So, you're just not as good as Brad when he does it.
I'm not as good. So
I'll have to.
You're great.
I tried. So, as it's Blue Shirt Bottom Line Thursday, what are we talking about today, Brad?
Well, how about mental health parity and something called the NQTL analysis?
Those like a plan.
It all makes my brain hurt.
I know. Me too. Should we try to bottom line it and make it simple? Because let's
make it simple.
More and more in the year ahead. So remember the Mental Health Parity Act, Addiction Equity Act that came out that effectively just said, hey, make sure your mental health benefits are on par with your medical surgical benefits. It makes sense, just make sure you're not treating folks with those conditions any differently. So that's all good. The trick became this analysis that they required employers to do upon request. So you didn't have to send it in advance to the feds, but if they caught wind that there may be a disparity on how your mental health benefits are, you had to basically give them this big, long analysis. Very complicated, very ambiguous rules. Yeah, massive. I know that AP took the stance, hey, if our clients get asked for one of these, really need to outsource it. It's beyond probably the average person's capability to even the employers to do it. And so anyhow, apparently, not even apparently, I've read this from multiple legal journals. When the feds went out to ask for these things, even from some big employers, because there's a lot of lawsuits that came about, hey, this plan isn't equitable. Every single one that they reviewed of these analysis that came back didn't meet the standards that the feds had hoped. And I think it's a challenge.
Everybody failed.
Yeah, everyone failed. They were ambiguous in what they wanted, so no one knew how to give the answers back to the professor like they needed. Remember those days in college? What do you want me to say on this? Here you go. And no one hit those details. So they came back with some additional proposed regs that hope to add some clarity, and they actually even added some examples of where a lot of plans were in violation. So I'm going to stop there.
This was so confusing. As Chris said, it makes our brain hurt. So I think the examples will be helpful, but what did we notice for examples to actually say this is what this means, because it's pretty convoluted.
Yeah, the one I'm going to start with surprised me the most. A lot of groups have added telehealth, even post-COVID. It's just such a great benefit to have. You're traveling, pull up your phone, whether it's Teledoc, MD Live, you name your provider. But not all groups have added the mental health component to that, right? Because there's often an extra expense. Well, in the Fed's proposed rules, they showed examples on groups that failed the test because one that they mentioned didn't have the mental health component on their telehealth app. And I guess that makes sense if you think about it, but it's like, wow, okay, they are really diving deep into those details. So that's one area I think all of us keep in mind when we have telehealth. It should,
and we've seen a couple of our insurance carriers, not necessarily on the self-funded side, but fully insured level funded, where they are now offering no-cost mental health alongside their no-cost medical services through their virtual visit app. And that's something that's happened, but I don't know that that's across the board for all self-funded plans. That's a really good point.
Yeah. But based on what Brad says, if you offer it for a medical condition or a medical treatment
for mental health,
mental health side. I'm the same way. I don't think all of our clients, especially self-funded, have added that component.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It'll be interesting too if the telehealth providers actually just make that a part of their offering, so they don't have clients in or outside of compliance. The other two that I just noted in the hot news: pre-authorization requirements. What steps do you require that mental health provider to go through to prove this treatment is justified or this expense is justified compared to the process you put like a surgeon through?
Right.
There are things, though, that I don't know how an employer or a broker consultant could really answer on behalf of that employer, because we aren't the TPA going through that process. And so
we're not approving services. We're not giving recommendations on medical necessity. That's not in our scope at all.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think where a lot of these regs were pointing to, even though today these rules fall on the employer to do this analysis, technically, when all is said and done, I think they're recognizing that much of this falls in the need for the TPA to do it. Now, I wouldn't want to be a TPA anymore. Think of all the compliance things, pharmacy compliance with all the rules there. This is just one more thing, but be on the lookout. Last one was ABA therapy for autism. You know, we're seeing that become a bigger and bigger thing to help those with autism. Some plans limit it or cap the dollar amount because it can be expensive.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Basically, this is saying you can't. You know, if you cover autism treatment, you have to cover ABA therapy.
And it's kind of like the, you know, and not to the same extent, but ACA regulations just in a less clear way. I mean, there were so many things that came around with that in terms of annual maximums, lifetime maximums. We're covering wellness. You have to do these things. You know, it just doesn't seem that this has come out as clean and as simple as here's the actual things you should do. So hopefully more to come.
Yep, definitely. So that's the update.
Good stuff, Brad.
Sounds good.
Thanks for adding that to your newsletter this month and for spending your valuable time to explain it here in person.
You guys are the best. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
See you.
We'll
All right, see you.
All right, bye-bye.